We get access to a lot of weapons in the Armored Core series. Doomsday slinging Kojima cannons, soul tearing coral weapons that scream as they fire at opponents, and of course the roar of the classic back-mounted grenade launchers. But there is one weapon that I think every single one of us Ravens have had to use at one point in our careers, and that is the humble rifle. I know I dogged on the starting rifle in one of my other lists in the past, but I want there to be no mistake. Not all rifles are bad. And in some of the games, a trusty rifle might be the thing that carries you through the entirety of the game. I want to be clear. In this list, I won't be talking about anything other than the bare bones basic rifle. No sniper, laser, linear, plasma, battle, or otherwise will be found in this list. I might make an exception for burst and assault rifles, since they fire the same kind of projectile, but just swap up the firing speed. But for the most part, you better believe this list is going to be all about our ubiquitous, all-rounder solid shot rifles. So buckle up, Raven. This is the Ravens Cortex Top 10 Rifles list in the Armored Core franchise. Before we hop into the list, we of course need to go over our ground rules and our honorable mentions. The ground rules for this one are pretty easy. It has to be a solid shell rifle that isn't classified under another type. So no linear rifles, sniper rifles, battle rifles, or anything of the sort. We want to keep this as close as we can to the true rifles of the series. I've decided that assaults and bursts are okay since it's still a rifle, but just people deciding if they want to fire in a burst or a mag. Second, and worth mentioning, this isn't a PvP list. Some rifles might be absent on here that are expected because there are monsters in PvP. We are talking about arena and mission performance here, my friends. Let's hop into our honorable mentions. First, on our honorable mentions is the Labiata, an algebra rifle that popped up in Armored Core 4 Answer. It's not particularly special in any regard, which is why it doesn't quite crack the list, being effective against targets that have had their primal armor stripped from them. The Labiata does have decent knockback, but besides that and some okay damage, not much else. Second on this list is just a mention for its pure rifle functionality, and that's the Harris from Armored Core 6. I can't put it on the official list since it's classified as a linear rifle, but its uncharged firing version is pretty much indistinguishable from normal rifle's pressure. Good damage, good stagger buildup, and it's just got solid rifle performance. Shame it can't actually get a place though. This thing is a monster. Last on our honorable mentions list is the Shadow from Generation 3.5. Boasting high damage and high heat, this heavy rifle is a favorite when paired with other pressure rifles like the Gast. However, I think those applications are a bit better in the PvP aspect of the game rather than for mission running. Alright, and with that, let's kick off our top 10. Number 10. Coming in at number 10 is one of our representatives from 2nd generation Armored Core, and that is the EWG-RF 10LB from Armored Core 2, Another Age. The reward for clearing the Old Gal region, this Emerald rifle is an absolute shredder when it comes to fighting things in missions. Rifles normally have the reputation of being a slower firing weapon that is good at keeping the pressure up and maintaining that on targets. This rifle takes that aspect of rifles and turns the knob up to 11, rocking an almost 30% faster reload rate than its contemporary other rifles. This makes it amazing at fighting things like ACs in a one-on-one battle or higher HP MT targets. On top of this, even though it is a more special rifle, it luckily benefits from having a wide and shallow lock type, allowing you to focus more on movement while firing this thing as opposed to focusing on tracking your target. The news isn't all good for the 10LB, however. It does have a few shortcomings. Its rapid fire shredding power comes at a cost, literally, with each bullet costing 3 times more than its starter rifle counterpart. To add to its weaknesses, the 10LB also has the lowest ammo heat application by a significant margin, meaning that if you were to have an arena, which luckily or rather unluckily you don't in Another Age, this thing wouldn't be putting up much heat pressure on targets. Lastly, and by far the biggest weakness of this weapon, is the exceptionally lackluster ammo capacity. Even for Ravens who plan their shots, they might have trouble keeping their ammo reserves up with this thing, and fighting more than one AC in a mission may prove to be a problem, especially if you're fighting them after doing the normal mission. All that, though, doesn't detract from how good this thing is if you want a reliable shell weapon that can shred most targets in a pretty quick clip. You may recognize this thing for bearing a resemblance to another rifle that will show up later on in this list, and that is no accident. But for now, this thing gets our number 10 spot today. Number 9. So, I might catch a little bit of heat for this one, but honestly, I don't really mind. And that's because I'm not really sure where else I'd be able to put this thing on a list of any type, so I'll include it on here. For number 9, I'm giving this spot to the Kisaragi KWG ARFL 150 left arm exclusive assault rifle from Armored Core Silent Line. The ARFL 150 is an amazing rifle because it fills a niche that is quite difficult in Silent Line that some players may take for granted from later gens, and that is the fact that it's a rifle on your left arm. These things weren't common back then, and especially in the assault variant. The ARFL is great especially in the Silent Line arena, since it's amazing at popping off a quick 3-shot burst to keep the heat pressure on a target, and the damage is none too shabby either. Sure, the other left arm MWG RFL 150 has a higher damage per shot, but its reload time is almost on par with the assault rifle, meaning that the chances of you actually getting the mileage out of those shots, like you would with the ARFL, is significantly lower. One of the major downsides of the ARFL is the fact that it appears so late in the game, well past the second half in the mission Eliminate Rioters, and on top of that, has a challenge requirement. For pilots who aren't aware of this, they may not even know this little gem exists. Another fun use case about the left arm version of this weapon is the fact that it actually does higher damage than its right arm contemporaries, letting you squeeze out even more value in those ever so challenging Silent Line arena battles. Rocking 150 shots on this thing does let you get 50 bursts of this weapon in missions too, but it does suffer from the Gen 3 problem of completely lacking the ability to lock on as a left arm weapon independent of your other weapon systems. So make sure that you're keeping something equipped while you're in the depths of some of those Silent Line missions, or your triple shot rifle is going to be a glorified rocket launcher before the day is done. Another one of the Kisaragi weapons that doesn't suck. Maybe I should rethink my viewpoint on Kisaragi things. So, this one I had a bit of a hard time placing on the list, because I know that it's a highly effective PvP weapon in its own right for online Last Raven play, and most people would probably place it higher, but on the other hand, I have a lot of trouble making this thing work as a primary weapon system. I'm of course talking about the CRYWH0SR3 from Armored Core Last Raven, and luckily, even being bad with it, I can tell that it's an effective damage dealer, especially in AC on AC combat. This is in no small part thanks to its very quick firing rate for a rifle. You may notice that this thing looks eerily familiar to another rifle already mentioned on this list, and that, again, is no mistake. This rifle shares many downsides and upsides with the previously mentioned EWG RF10LB, almost down to the model, which again is shared with another weapon coming on further in this list. I'm placing it a bit higher on this list since the downsides of this kind of rapid-fire rifle is somewhat mitigated by Generation 3.5's hanger system. So while the rifle does have an even smaller magazine at 100 rounds over its Gen 2 counterpart, when it runs out of ammo, it isn't completely catastrophic. Another thing that makes this gun great is the fact that it's one of the rifles in the game that has a both side variant. You can equip it on either the left or the right hand, or even both if you so desire, giving you lots of variability for wherever you want to put this thing. On top of that, its lock-on aptitude increase is great, letting you squeeze out even more lock-on box with this guy. And while I know the WR-73R2 is the king of Last Raven PvP rifles, I think there is a great argument to be made for this thing in PvE play. It will take a bit of getting used to swapping to it for PvE in Last Raven, since everything is rocking a full 100% AP pool, but it still has a lot going for it. Low weight and quick punchy firepower is nothing to scoff at, but it isn't quite strong enough to be higher on the list, so for now, it occupies the number 8 slot. Number 7. Probably one of the most iconic looking rifles in the entire series. For number 7 today, we're going to be talking about the exceptionally slick looking 04 Marv, developed by Rancetsu-RF and present in both 4th gen Armored Core games. The Marv isn't just lethal looking, it is a fully dangerous rifle in its own right. Rocking the Rancetsu-RF design philosophy of, I'm here for a good time, not a long time, the Marv will absolutely demolish targets when paired with the bright PA stripping weapons, leading to the uprising of the Marver Cobra combo in Armored Core 4 Answer PvP in the early days. The pure destructive potential of the Marv is on display when a target's primal armor is down, ripping chunks out of both Nexts, Arm Forts, Normals, and MTs alike. The Marv earned its place in the community for its sleek-looking design and pure destructive potential. Unfortunately, the Marv does have some downsides, and it shares it with its number 10 and number 8 entry cousins, the 10LB and the SR3, by being a rifle with pretty inadequate ammo stores, making it not as optimal for some of the longer, grindier missions of 4th gen. It's really an issue. After a few reloads, you're pretty much out of ammo, like 4 at most. In addition to that, the Marv, while hitting hard, isn't the hardest hitting of the 4th gen rifles, and it tries to make up for that by increasing the fire rate to almost double some of the other contemporaries, further exacerbating ammunition issues. Finally, it doesn't have that sick as hell melee ability that's shown off in the Armored Core 4 opening cutscene, much to the chagrin of many a pilot. I guess we all just aren't as cool as Berlioz. That being said, this thing is far from bad. Being spec'd for close range combat in the Rancetsu-RF style does mean that the gun handling up close is superb. And if you can navigate around the lackluster ammo stores, the fire rate lets you shove even more damage into a target at blistering speed while their primal armor is down or recharging. When paired with the right weapons, the Marv can really shine. And if you see one, you most likely won't want to get too close to whoever is wielding it. And for that, it gets our 7th place position today. Number 6. In Armored Core 6, people have a love-hate relationship with rifles, I find. Lots of players either decry the game's rifles as not being rifle-y as the old gens, where they're good at pretty much any range, and on the other hand, I see plenty of people love them for their stagger building potential and moderate damage application. At number 6 today, I'm going to put the Rancetsu-RF burst rifle here, for its flexibility and adaptability in the 6th generation of games. Unlike its truly despised brother, the Rancetsu-AR, the RF model of rifle is capable of single-shot pressure, making it a favorite for players who are used to the more run-and-gun style of combat of previous gens. On top of this, the RF has quite an effective range compared to lots of other weapons in the game, to a range of just over 300 meters away. This lets the weapon actually engage and build impact consistently on targets that are at ranges besides point blank, which seems to be what most of the things are only good at nowadays in Armored Core 6. On top of this, unlike its brother, since it lets you fire single shots, the magazine for this gun lasts significantly longer, allowing for more precise targeting, but can also be charged to release a 3-shot burst. The real power of the RF, though, is the stagger buildup that the gun can provide at medium range. This lets the build either kite or back off, or close the gap while the target is low on stagger meter, allowing the pilot to close the distance for a nice Rubiconian handshake. Unfortunately, it is a rifle in Gen 6, so the benefits of the gun don't have very many similarities to rifles of old, namely longer effective ranges. But that doesn't stop this weapon from being a fan favorite in PvP scenes. If you really want to see which of the two rifles FromSoft likes more, just run a build with 2 RFs or 2 ARs, and you will see pretty much immediately the difference. It's night and day. And hey, any weapon that's good for Rusty is good enough for me. So it gets number 6 today. Before we get into the second half of the list, I'd just like to thank my channel subscribers and Patreon patrons, Red Hot Boss 1 and Peter Van Heerden 2133. For those who are interested, I have a Patreon now, since some people mentioned not wanting to do YouTube memberships, but still wanting to support me. If you want to have your emblem show up on the screen, or maybe just have a shout out, consider becoming a patron. If you aren't already subscribed and love Armored Core, I've got lots of Armored Core content coming down the pipe for all of you. But please, Only subscribe if you're enjoying the video. Thanks for your time, Ravens. And now, back to the list. Number 5. In case you haven't noticed, for this list, it's more about how effective the rifle is overall as a weapon than the sheer bone-crushing damage potential that other weapons take the route of. For our number 5 entry today, consistency is the name of the game, and that's where the second generation EWG-RF M15 MROD rifle comes in. This thing is just painfully consistent, and it's great for it. Rocking 150 shots, a decent fire rate, good damage, amazing heat application, and great range, this highly accurate oppression weapon is fantastic for the marathon-like missions in Armored Core 2, as well as the arena battles, all without breaking the bank. Of most of the rifles on this list, it's probably the least flashy of all of them. Being available right away, this thing probably gets lumped in with its starting rifle cousin, and frankly, it's a bit of a shame that it does. I actually love picking this thing up to cut through missions like Eliminate Disorder units, which is just awash with enemies. On top of that, the thing has the legs, despite accusations of low ammo, to keep up with multi-AC missions, even if they have MT support. You may not want to solely rely on it, but only weighing in at 325 weight points, this thing barely demands any fitting space, allowing you to have plenty of freedom with the back-mounted weapon weight costs. These bonuses extend even into the arena. Since it is rocking a wide and shallow lock type, maintaining pressure on a highly mobile target is a breeze. And if you can maintain a bead on the target, it's going to overheat very quickly, making its AC damage deceivingly high. The M15 is just consistent. And even though it was buffed in Armored Core Another Age, I think since targets in Armored Core 2 have lower HP, its version on paper is better in Another Age, but the Armored Core 2 version is superior. We gotta keep in mind that the game it resides in, after all. It's not flashy, but it certainly gets the job done, and reliably at that. So the MROD EWG-RF M15 cracks our top half of the top 10 today. Number 4. And number 4 today is probably our last of the mascot AC loadout rifles. Not to be outdone by his Armored Core 4 rival, Berlioz, White Glint also rocks a pair of rifles. The 051 ANNR is our number 4 spot and is White Glint's swift right hook to the 063 ANNR's jabs. Absolutely incredible at shoving damage onto enemies, the 051 ANNR is a BFF masterstroke of rifle design. This thing cannot possibly let its pilot down. Amazing damage projection, high accuracy regardless of range, nutty high primal armor penetration values, awesome ammunition reserves, it just has it all. This thing just wants to smash absolutely anything it hits. Hell, even the in-game description calls this thing a masterpiece. The nice thing about the ANNR is that it's great at dictating the pace of battle. Being able to gun down many small targets on the fly, it shifts well into next-on-next combat, making it super efficient as a mission runner. It's absolutely not a slouch in the arena either, being superb at its adaptability. If your target is going to absolutely demolish you at close range, fire from a distance and chip away their HP 400 to 500 damage at a time, utilizing its amazing primal armor penetration. And if your opponent can't handle you point blank, get up close and sock them in the jaw with a punishing PA stripper in the left hand. It can do it all. It really shouldn't be stated at how good this thing is at running missions though. While the arena performance is great, its ability to club normals like gooey meat-filled piñatas is what really makes this thing shine. Small targets just cannot deal with the onslaught of damage this thing can bring to bear, and its huge 30-shot magazine size, coupled with its insanely fast reload, is the icing and sprinkles on this murder cake. The only thing that I can think of that the ANNR struggles with, though, is its larger targets. It doesn't struggle with larger targets in the sense that it can't hit them. It just means that usually it's not going to be the main damage dealer for things like armed forts in 4-Answer. That's better suited for things like machine guns or huge shock weapons like grenade launchers. Chances are, though, that if you have a build that feels good, adding an 051 ANNR is anything but a bad choice. So it gets our runner-up for the podium at number 4. Number 3. One of the great things about 5th Gen is that everything feels really balanced. It's one of the core tenets of why Gen 5 loyalists love it so much. The game is very well balanced, especially in its second game in the generation, Armored Core Verdict Day. And for our third place spot, I wanted to give the bronze medal to the RFA 130 rifle. Gen 5 for me is what really made me want to take a closer look at rifles when I first played it all those years ago. Because Gen 5 rifles absolutely freaking slap, at least for PvE play. These things are grossly efficient at dealing with the chaff and minor enemies that litter the missions of Verdict Day. And assuming that a target isn't totally kinetic energy resistant, it is a tax where enemy ACs will be paying over and over and over. Funnily enough, the fire rate on this thing hard spiked in Verdict Day as well, feeling more like a rapid-fire assault rifle of old rather than the ratty old rifle of Armored Core 5. Where it is still good, by the way. When I really started asking for help about 5th gen way back when, the very first question I was asked was, are you running a rifle? Followed by, yeah, you should run a rifle. And I've been a 5th gen rifle apologist ever since. While I'm not sure how these things are looked at in a PvP sense, I have a great time scything down enemies in PvE play with this thing. Its DPS feels absolutely insane when firing at higher HP targets, or at ACs that are not kinetically energy resisted. Tuning this thing for attack speed or damage just makes me feel like a 5th gen god, as I ruin every kinetic energy weak thing that waltzes my way. It also has the very prestigious title of being the first and only starting rifle that I don't loathe to use, which I know some of you took issue with when I mentioned starting rifles in my worst weapons in the franchise video. I'm going to stick to my guns on this one, but will always bend the knee for my 5th gen king. If you haven't played 5th gen and want to dip your toes into the generation, know that the RFA 130 is a great piece of hardware, and has the longevity to get you through some of the more marathon-like missions in the generation. So for that, it gets our third place today. Number 2. For our silver medal, was actually the rifle that changed my entire outlook on this part class. And that is the MWG-RF 220 from Armored Core 3 and Armored Core Silent Line. The Armored Core 3 version of this gun is actually my preferred of the two, since it is the unnerfed version with the wide and shallow FCS type, giving you a box that essentially covers your whole screen. If you want a Gen 4 lock-on experience in a Generation 3 game, you could run this bad boy and murder everything, and have ammo to spare. The RF220 is, in my opinion, the most consistent of any rifle in the series. It is exceptionally well balanced, and by well balanced, I mean it's pretty much good at everything. So, maybe not balanced? Who knows? Sure, being a rifle, it doesn't smash targets as well as some of the bigger weapons, but it also doesn't overkill much in the game either. I originally overlooked this weapon in my younger days, and man, I missed a literal diamond tier weapon. This thing does everything, especially in missions. It's great as a mission runner since its ammo is so cheap. It has great range, a very generous 220 shots, great heat, low fitting, and more things for it than I could pretty much list here. It's pretty much my go-to weapon for clowning on Exile in the arena when I want to do some movement shenaniganry, and it's ultra effective at stunning targets in Silent Line. I think the weakest thing about this weapon is that it's not great for S ranking content. Costing some credits to fire, it will hamper you getting S ranks, and the fact its damage is best done over time instead of in upfront chunks means that runs will be a bit slower. But that's such a minor critique of the thing, it really doesn't move the needle of negatives. I know that the R2 Last Raven variant is very popular for rifler builds in the Last Raven online PvP scene as well, which shares a model with this weapon. Although I don't want that to influence the opinion of this thing too much. If I had to pick one of the variants of this weapon across all of Generation 3 and 3.5 though, I would 100% choose Armored Core 3's for its ease of use, unparalleled mission running potential, dominating arena usage, and early game carryability. If you want one rifle to try on this list to convert you to the cult of rifle users, I would be using this one. And for that, the MWG RF 220 gets the silver medal. Number 1. You may have noticed that there was a distinct lack of Generation 1 on this list. And that was because I was saving the best for last. If you want to experience the pinnacle of what rifles have to offer, look no further than the WG-RFM 118 from Armored Core Project Phantasma. Colloquially called the Green Rifle in online circles and available from the start of the game for an absolutely ridiculously high 95,000 comb, the Green Rifle's reputation is legendary for both its PvE performance and PvP performance in tournaments. Improved fire rate is the understatement of the century. Claiming a reload time of 5, which somehow is the same as the starter rifle's 5, this thing looks bad on paper. But if you were to go purely off of the stats in the garage, which I wouldn't blame you for, you would be making a dire mistake. The game lies to you. This thing is incredible at shelling out damage rapidly and reliably. The granddaddy of the Green Rifle archetype that 2 of the previous entries had, that also permeated through the rest of the series, this thing is the one that set the standard for all the later gen Green Rifle equivalents. The reliable damage performance, projectile speed, amazing range, and hefty magazine size are all symptoms of Project Phantasma's overtuning of its weapons, which it's a bit famous for. Usually coupled with a back-mounted magazine to push its ammo count into the machine gun levels of ammunition range, this thing has the stamina to outlast almost any opponent, and its acceptable weight penalty of 512 weight points makes it possible to slot in lots of heavier back-mounted weapons like the WX-800GF or the previously mentioned magazine and another weapon. It's important to state that once again, this version of the weapon has a wide and shallow lock-on, unlike its Master of Arena version, and much like the number 2 entry of the RF220, and nerfed its second iteration, giving it a special lock-on in addition to some reduced magazine capacity. The weapon, like all rifles, isn't perfect. It does suffer from not having stun or knockback of any kind, which is usually a rifle staple. But frankly, if it did have it, it would be even more unstoppable in the arena, and its less than stellar single shot damage can be a dissuasion for players that are more used to hammer blowing a target with a single round. But if you do get a lock on, this thing will shred any lightweight AC in a matter of seconds, consistently, and still have rounds to spare for MTs coming your way. The WG-RFM 118 Green Rifle is the progenitor of super good rifles, and earns its number 1 spot today rightfully on this list. Let me guess, Raven, you now want to go back and give rifles a shot, don't you? But perhaps maybe don't know what other weapons go with them. I would suggest taking a look at my top 10 missiles video. These things pair very well with rifles, and it might give you some ideas. Or maybe you just want to check out some fan-favorite ACs that might have them equipped. Spoiler alert, some of them do. If so, these 2 lists are for you. Thanks again to my supporters, members, and patrons, and as always, Raven, I'll see you in the next one.